Hey everyone, it's Professor Clark, and in this lecture, we are going to learn a little bit about the word you in Russian and formal and informal speech situations. So, unlike English, but like many other European languages, Russian has two words for you. It has the equivalent of you, and then it also has the equivalent of thee or thou, which we used to use in English, but we don't anymore. And so these two words in Russian are ты, which is the informal or singular form of you, and вы, which we use in formal or plural situations. So we use ты to talk to one person whom we know well. We also use it when speaking to a small child or to an animal, even if we don't know them well. And college students are normally going to use ты with each other. The word вы is the plural form of you, but we also use it when speaking to one person in a formal setting. So, for example, college students will normally use ты when talking to each other, but they will use вы with their professors. So let's talk a little bit more about ты. Ты is the second person singular, or the second pronoun of the 6 types of personal pronouns in Russian. So we have я, I, ты, you singular, он, he, она, she, оно, it, and then мы, we, вы, you plural, and они, they. So ты is the second person singular, it's you in the singular. And as you can see on page 28, ты has its own verb endings, and we will learn more about verb endings later. But for the moment, just know that the present tense conjugation marker for ты is sh мягкий знак. And you can see this on page 28 with phrases like где ты живешь? Where do you, singular, live? Где ты учишься? Where do you, singular, go to school? Ты also has its own form of greetings. So when we are using ты with someone, we can say здравствуй or привет to mean hi or hello, and then we say пока when we say goodbye. If we want to ask someone what is your name and we think we should be on ты with them, we say как тебя зовут. Note the form there. That is actually the accusative case of ты, and we will learn more about the accusative case later. But what you're really saying is, what do they call you? And so we're going to say тебя. Вы is the second person plural, so that's the 4th pronoun listed in the list of 6 types of personal pronouns in Russian. So again, we have я, I, first person singular, ты, you, second person singular, он, third person singular masculine, она, third person singular feminine, оно, third person singular neuter, and then мы, first person plural, вы, which is what we're talking about here, second person plural, and они, they, third person plural. And вы also takes its own verb endings. And as you can see in the phrases on page 28, the present tense conjugation marker for вы is те, е. So, for example, we say, где вы живете? Where do you live? Где вы учитесь? Where do you go to school? And then it also has its own greetings. So we could say, здравствуйте, to say hello. And note that te ending. This is actually a verb. It's the imperative of the verb to be healthy. So in Russian, when you say hello, you say be healthy. And we can see this te вы marker here, здравствуйте. Or you could say добрый день, good day, or добрый вечер, good evening. And then we say до свидания for goodbye. If we want to ask someone what is your name, we say как вас зовут? Note here again, we have what is the accusative case of вы. So we're going to turn it into вас. And we're saying, what do they call you? Как вас зовут? And вы is often capitalized even in the middle of a sentence if you are using it to address a single person. So if you were writing it out and you were using it to address a single person in a formal situation, you would write out где вы живете with a capital V or как вас зовут with a capital V. So since we don't have this in English, this can be kind of challenging for English speakers to know when to use the or вы. So here are some basic guidelines. When do we use the? We use the when talking to a child, an animal, or God. So you are not the with God because God knows everything about you. You're on very intimate terms with God. You would use it most of the time when talking to another high school or college student. So if you are a college student, you're going to use it with other high school and college students. You would normally use it when talking to your immediate family. Even though they're older than you, you would still use it normally with your parents or your grandparents. And then you would use it if someone has invited you to use it with them. And we will talk more in a bit about inviting someone to use the. When do you use вы? You always use вы when you are addressing two or more people, and this holds true even if these people happen to be children, animals, or divinities. If you have a group of two or more that you are addressing, you always have to use вы. You should probably use вы when addressing your professors or your superiors at work. You should probably use вы when you are addressing a stranger. Like, for example, if you need to talk to someone on the street or in a store or on public transport, especially if they're older than you. And in general, when you are talking to someone who's older than you, who is not in your immediate family, you should use вы. And the general rule of thumb is when in doubt, use вы. It is much less offensive to use вы when you should use ты than to use ты when you should use вы. So if you're wondering what the situation is, use вы and then let the native speaker correct you if you were wrong. Okay, so let's say you're with someone and you started out na вы or using вы with them, and it really seems like you might want to use ты with them. This is pretty common because, like I said, when in doubt, people are going to use вы, and then it pretty quickly turns out a lot of the time that really the relationship is such that you should use ты. So if you want to invite someone, or more likely someone else will invite you to be на ты, the construction is to say давай на ты, which means let's go to ты. And this is kind of a big deal in a relationship. This is like an important relationship marker. And I don't just mean romantic relationship. I mean any kind of relationship. It's a fairly big deal to be invited давай на ты, especially if the person is older or in some way senior to you. And there are some rules or some guidelines for when and how to do this. The senior person should issue the invitation. So you don't say to your professor, давай на ты. Your professor may say to you, давай на ты. Or they may not. And then in your case, because you're not a native speaker, the basic guideline is to let the native speaker decide when to issue the invitation. Again, you are much less likely to cause offense if you use вы. And so just keep using вы until the native speaker says давай на ты. The only exception to that rule I could think of would be if you were a professor or some kind of senior management person talking to someone very junior to you, and they were the native speaker and you were not, it would still be up to you to say давай на ты. Frankly, for you at this moment, that is unlikely to happen. That being the case, bear that in mind for 15, 20 years down the road. So that is our basic overview of ты and вы. And so now you can start addressing people politely and culturally appropriately. I hope you found that helpful and enjoy your Russian for today.